Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's video and audio guest has been competing since 2018 and turned pro at NPC Universe in 2023, which was her 14th show. And since then, she has made her pro debut at the Hawaii Pro, where she placed 4th. Outside of competing and fitness modeling, she is an eye doctor, a wife, and a coach who will soon be launching a podcast with Lauren, who was literally just featured on the show, and their other friend, Kaylia. I'm really excited about this guest. So welcome to the show, Steph Ashley Warden. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm so happy you're here, and I'm glad you're doing well. I know, doing these podcasts is something that really fulfills me, and knowing we're both hitting the gym after gets me excited because I personally get this rush of energy after a podcast.
Yes, you didn't tell me what you were training. What are you training?
You know what? I'm training glutes today.
Me too.
So it's my one glute day a week, and I'm I always make the most of it.
Yes, I'm even dragging my husband to the gym with me today, and so Corey's going to put us through a workout.
Oh, awesome. Okay, well, I want to talk to you about that too, because you've got an in-person trainer. But before we get into it, let me ask, is there anything you do or think about, or maybe a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage?
I think my biggest ritual would probably be just music. And also, I love listening to kind of motivational podcasts. I really kind of stay to myself minutes before, really practicing posing, going through the rounds, just imagining myself on stage. Visualization is huge for me.
I love that. I think it's great that you can separate yourself, do what you need to do, and visualize yourself crushing it up there. You have such great presence. You have such a great routine too. It's been really awesome to see a lot of, you look super poised and you flow. We share a posing coach.
Oh yes, Angeline.
Yes, and she is a friggin' beast when it comes to posing. I just bought some more sessions with her because I need to see her again, but I think
Oh my
that
gosh.
she does
Yes,
such
her
a great
attention
job.
to detail is top notch. Top notch.
Yeah. So you are training with a trainer in person. You do this often. I've seen a lot of your videos. So walk us through why you
Yeah.
decide to do that.
I am really big on intentional training. I prepped all the way through school and took myself through workouts quite a bit. And then I went over to the Lion's Den in Portland, which is one of the bigger glute gyms. And it was my first time kind of training with a trainer. Since starting to compete. Just getting that kind of taste of having someone really guide your workouts towards being as engaging as possible for you, I think really changed my mind. And I really love training with Corey.
Yeah, I've seen some of your guys' videos. He keeps you really locked in, and I think that's valuable. There's a level I think we can all push ourselves to and continue to push that limit, but sometimes you get with a trainer or you're training with a buddy or someone's pushing you just a little bit further or they add that weight you wouldn't have added. And
Yeah, that's
you
it.
use the word intentional. What does intentional training look like compared to maybe less intentional?
Um, I would say when you're training more intentionally, you're really feeling the mind muscle connection. You're not necessarily doing a ton of exercises, but you're specifically choosing exercises and actually even putting it in a very specific order to maximize, your training time. And for me, like time under tension is huge when I'm intentional training. So I think that if I compared it to kind of the full body workouts or some of the workouts I used to do before training with a trainer, and kind of taking that intention part a little bit more seriously, I guess.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense. I feel like
yeah.
you've had so much growth since when you started to now that it's clear it's made an impact on your physique. Even so much so that in your most recent show, you were told to bring down the density of your shoulders. So,
Yes.
how has your maybe feedback evolved and then your training and nutrition evolved to meet that feedback?
Um, I would say that I guess if I just focused on my most recent feedback with the pro debut, to kind of tone down my shoulders, I haven't trained specifically front and lateral delts since Hawaii. I've done a ton of rear delts, but it's completely cut down a little bit of my training. I guess I have one more rest day, one more active rest day, I guess, a week, which is great. We love following feedback, but also we're athletes, and that's not always fun.
Mm-hmm.
um, but in terms of nutrition, I don't think a ton has changed there. I think that when I start working with Angeline a little bit more regularly than I am right now, we'll also kind of take a look at my posing, and perhaps that could make a difference as well. Well, actually, I know it'll make a difference.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really great point too, is you got to be able to not just tweak the training and the nutrition, but also the posing. And it can, that's
Yes.
why some people like myself who need to make their shoulders look bigger will do certain things comparatively to someone like yourself who's trying to make it look smaller. Now,
Hmm.
I think posing is a very interesting subject, and something you have talked about is you needing to practice your core control on stage and this being a point of focus for you. How have you done that? Because this is a common issue for many competitors. So how have you
Yes.
focused on core control? Maybe what are some of those cues you give yourself or even your clients?
I would say that for core control, I think that the frequency at which you practice is really key. And then also the amount of duress you're under, meaning that I try not to do my vacuums, right before bed or first thing in the morning, when I'm calm, or, my stomach is empty, things like that. I try to do it, in between sets, when my heart rate is really really high. There's tons of people in the gym. I try to kind of hold my front pose. When I'm doing cardio, and I'm walking, I try to hold my vacuum and kind of have that same stage posture. That's really key. It's been something that's been evolving, and I've been really really working on, because when you're on stage and you're under so much stress, sometimes with the lights and everything like that, it's easy to forget. And it's one thing that's really key to keeping that really nice S curve and balance that we all go for.
Absolutely. You can
Yeah.
tell when someone kind of lets go of that control of their core, especially in those
Hmm.
transition poses, and it can make a difference in your physique. And, if judges are scanning you even on the side of the stage and you haven't conditioned yourself enough with endurance of maintaining core control, they're gonna notice that, and it's just gonna kind of be a mental note for them. So, I love your advice to actually practice it in those more intense situations versus just
Exactly.
when it's easy to control it.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
How else has your training and nutrition, or maybe even just approach to prep and improvement seasons evolved over the years? Because you've been with a few different coaches, you've really kind of determined when is the best time to leave a coach, when to pursue the next decision, and we'll get into that. But how has your approach evolved over the years?
Approach to kind of finding a coach, or
More so
approach.
to like prepping and improvement
Okay.
seasons.
I guess in 2018 I was in undergrad when I first started, and then I prepped through grad school, and like you said, now prepping with a career. So I guess during school I didn't have as many funds, and
Yeah.
so that was a huge determinant. Um, so I think in terms of prep, I was a little bit more on the low cost side. I ate a lot of tilapia and egg whites and things that were kind of lower priced, I guess. Whereas now, in terms of my preferences, I love bison, I love halibut, so things that are not necessarily
Be on that
the
doctor level
cheapest.
diet now.
Yeah, that's right. But those are things that I kind of incorporate that keep me consistent as well, and still hitting my macros and keep things fun and a little bit of more variety, I think, throughout prep. So that's one way I guess my nutrition has changed. In terms of training, obviously having an in-person trainer is also not the most cost effective. And so I think, when I started with a trainer, Corey was my first trainer. I trained with a couple of other trainers beforehand, but yeah, I think that would be one way my training's changed. Perhaps having, a couple more gym memberships. But yeah, so I would say that's the biggest change, I guess, from school to now. But having more time, I guess, too. Having more time.
Definitely. It makes a difference when you're not going into the gym feeling like I gotta be done at this time because I have to be back at
Exactly.
this, or
Yeah.
having to force yourself to wake up super early because you're sacrificing sleep during school quite, at least I was sacrificing sleep quite a bit during school.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I remember once I was on the Stairmaster and I had like my little slides in front of me and I'm just kind of studying and just
Yeah.
repeating it back to myself as I'm doing cardio.
Literally, sometimes that's all you can do. Like, and I was
Yeah.
trying to get, when I was trying to get my national certification as a counselor, it was actually, they had provided an early track to that. Well, you could do it during your master's degree, right at the end
Oh,
before graduation. If you prove that you already had what you needed to graduate, you could test
yeah.
early. So I did. And that was really hard to be
The
doing that
stress.
while, yeah, and you
Oh
know
my
how it
gosh.
is. Like, you
Yes,
discharge
the stress.
clients, you're trying to go through this process, manage all your hours so you can meet your, and then
Hmm.
studying. But I actually learned so much, I feel like, through cardio studies because it kept
Yes.
me engaged.
Yes. And there's nothing else to focus on. It's just, right? You don't want to focus on the fact that you're dying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you said you were doing Stairmaster, and that's something else that you've made mention has changed. So why did you stop doing Stairmaster? And I think it was in your most recent prep, right?
Yes. Yeah. So when I was training for Universe and won my pro card, I was still incorporating stairs quite a bit. But when I switched to Team Hughley, Shane really made a point of teaching me that walking and doing, I guess, not even just walking, doing more list movements instead of the hit movements really helps in terms of your expenditure. So he was saying that with list movements, you have a lower expenditure. You do have to do it for longer, obviously, to burn the same amount. But it does keep kind of your that ratio between how much you're eating and how much you're putting into how much you are giving out in terms of energy expenditure.
Definitely. That's such a big change. I think a lot of athletes, when they make it, they realize how much better their recovery is too.
Yes, yes, that's a huge one. I'm so glad you brought that up because, yeah, on your knees and just, overall, just in terms of recovery, it's insane. And then you have that much more energy to put into your training, right?
Yes, that right there, I think when I used to do hit workouts, like, I didn't realize how much it was taking away from what I needed to be doing, which was like putting my all into the actual workout moves that matter,
Yes,
not like
yes,
jump roping between sets and doing that kind of
yeah.
stuff.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we've all done the same. We've all
Yeah.
done the same, right? All the same mistakes.
Yeah, for real. I'm glad though, because then I think there's listeners who probably are doing those types of things now and they think like that's the best way. And maybe it is for them. Maybe it is, or maybe
Hmm.
that's part of it for right now. But I've definitely learned so much over my journey through competing of what I
Yes.
wish I could have done differently.
Yes. Yes. And then it's kind of, I know I got a little bit of a joy from it too, because I feel like it's what keeps me going too, is just that constant want to improve, right? That constant want to improve.
Has that influenced your decision in who you work with as your coach?
I would say so. I would say so that it's always been each time it's always been a personal decision for that time in my life. It's never been, anything personal with a coach. What's really nice is that when I placed fourth at my pro debut, one of my past coaches actually texted me to say what a great job I did and how happy he was for me. So I think it's really key that it is never personal, right? And it's just a decision that you're making for yourself to constantly improve.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so true. How do you know when it's time to switch coaches, or maybe what are some of those key factors you'd be considering when doing that?
Well, I've never switched coaches during a prep. So, for me at least, and I know some people have, and I just have never experienced that. But for me, when I finish a prep, I kind of evaluate how that prep went, things that I can improve on as an athlete, things that I think my coach could improve on. I actually ask my coaches, what things I could improve on for my next prep. I tried to make sure that they're as candid with me as possible because it only makes you improve, right? Um, so I think I kind of, just evaluate how that prep went to kind of just take stock, I guess. And then I kind of think about where I want to go next prep, and then whether, our partnership and how we worked together would be helpful moving forward.
That's a good point too. So now, what have been some of the pros and cons of switching coaches over the years?
Um, let's start with the positives.
Yeah.
So the pros have been that I have learned so much because, I have had, so many different opinions, so many different strategies, so many different, I guess, ways of approaching prep and training. So I think I've learned a lot. That's a huge pro. I also think that I've gotten very confident in listening to my gut. So that's really been a pro as well, and listening to my body, I guess, as well. Listening to my body and how that prep really went, right? Mentally too, is huge. In terms of cons, I would say, relearning, having someone learn your body again, learn the things you like, the things you don't like in terms of nutrition. One weird one for me is I do not like avocado. So I've never had avocado on a planet. I know that that's pretty instrumental in most people's in terms of fat. So just learning someone new, learning a new peak strategy, then learning your body, I think would be one of the cons. But
Those are great points.
yeah.
I think when you make that type of decision, that's why it has to be so well thought out too. Because
Hmm.
otherwise, you run the risk of maybe not learning the lessons because you haven't taken the time to process it or maybe apply it. So, what are some of those lessons you've taken from the coaches you've worked with, and how have you applied them?
I would say that I don't know if they're necessarily lessons that the coaches have taught me, but more, I guess I approach prep as more of a partnership between the coach and the athlete. Um, and so I think we kind of learn from each other. One thing I guess with Shane is that I learned, that what I was saying with hit and list. So that's been huge. And I saw the results,
Yeah.
after my showing. So I think it's just kind of evolved with time. I don't even know if I could go back in time and say, this coach taught me this and this coach taught me this. Um, but they've all, positively impacted my journey as an athlete for sure.
Peace with food without sacrificing your goals as a competitor because you deserve to have successful preps, productive improvement seasons, and peace of mind year round. I decided to create a free 8-day food relationship coaching series a few years back that over 800 over 800 people have gone through. Because when your head is cluttered with thoughts of food, eating, guilt, you have a lot less energy to invest into the goals that you truly care about. So, this free program was designed to help athletes like yourself develop a healthy relationship with food so you can have your most fulfilling and effective preps, improvement seasons, and lifestyle phases as well. This is an 8-day series that has a video every single day, a full workbook to guide you through every single video, and you can respond to the emails with the work you did and receive direct support and guidance from me personally, which is, of course, something I love to provide to the community. So you're not only going to discover your ideal relationship with food, but you'll also identify detrimental thought and behavior patterns. You'll overcome guilt and shame, so every decision can be made with intention and pride. We will use expectations and reinforcements to seamlessly manipulate your behavior around food to be more positive and aligned with that ideal relationship with food. We'll figure out why you're really craving what you are when you're sleep deep in another jar of peanut butter, or justifying that next cookie, or continuously eating endless bags of rice cakes, whatever it is for you. We'll become crystal clear on why you act, think, and live the way you do, so you can, of course, act, think, and live the way you want to. And we'll come up with some personal commitments that are rooted in positive psychology based on your current season. So this is a psychoeducational course. It is free to anyone and everyone. You can access it at www.celestial.fit/food-series and learn more about it, as well as even get a sneak peek into the accessible PDF notebook with the extra resources and guidance through every single workshop along the way. If you do decide to participate in it and you love it, of course, I encourage you to share it with a friend or a teammate or another athlete who may be struggling. Or if you hear about someone's struggle, let them know that this exists.
That's awesome. When you have that many experiences, it makes sense why you would see it more as a partnership versus this person is telling me what to do and I'm going to do it. It becomes more of that open line of communication.
Yes, yes. And I think any coach would tell you how much communication matters. I'm a huge communicator through the bad days and the good days, right? It all matters.
It does. And competing is a beautiful thing. And I think poor communication with a coach can actually inhibit your experience or not feeling like you can communicate your needs. So being able to develop that communication style is really good. And like you said, there's going to be some hard days. You had done a lot of national shows before winning your pro card. And some of those placings, you were really close, and some you were a bit farther. And it was up and down. So how did you keep going when your placings did drop during that 2020 to 2021 timeframe? And what happened in 2022 that supported your 2023 season?
Well, I think 2020 was a hard year for everyone. So I think a lot of it had to do with the restrictions and just flying, and it was a lot of stress, I guess, a lot of stress. I just really loved competing. I think I was with Adam in 2021. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think we did nationals. It wasn't my best placing. It was actually my lowest stage weight, which I think is huge for bikini athletes as well, just to kind of veer up, because it's not a weight loss, competition.
Yes.
We kind of get in our heads about getting leaner. But it was actually one of my worst showings. So that was a huge lesson, going back to the lessons. That was a huge lesson on, on peaking and what the goal is, what the goal physique is, the balance, and that sort of thing. So I think it was just the time between 2020 and 2021. And then when I came back after a year of improvement, I was settled. I had my job, everything, we'd moved, everything was just kind of stable. And so I think that really helped me to kind of focus on prep and bring my best.
So did you take all of 20 or most of 2022 off before starting your prep?
Yes, most of 2022. I started prep actually a little bit earlier than normal, because I had kind of taken improvement season a little bit too far, and have just kind of gotten a little bit too comfortable. And so I started a little earlier just to give myself the time, without the stress, and make sure I did it in the healthiest way possible. So I started prep, I think it was September, October around. And then, yeah, and then I did the Arnold in 23, beginning of 23.
Yeah, let's talk about improvement season because me and you share a similar mentality on the goal is not to stay lean year round.
No,
And you need
not
that
at all.
extra time to not just grow, but to be comfortable in your skin in all seasons. So, how have
Mhm.
you created that mentality of comfort even in your improvement season, as opposed to maybe the version of you that was like, I need to be leaner or get as tight as possible?
Mhm. Um, I think definitely taking inventory of what's important to me during that season. And so during prep, I'm very strict. Prep comes first. I make almost 90%, almost 99% actually, of my decisions, based on prep. So, for example, if Zach wanted to go out for dinner, I have to finish my cardio. I've got to get my meals in. I've got to do these certain things before we can do that. In improvement season, I guess another good way of illustrating it is if he wanted to go out for dinner, I would make sure that it was on one of my higher days so that, it was easier to incorporate, having a meal out. Um, in improvement season, though, what I try to do is put more of my family first, more of my friends first, and prep second or third. And so if he wanted to go out for dinner on a Monday and it was, a lower calorie day, I would go out for dinner and just make it work, right? Because again, I would try to put family, friends first, throughout improvement season because it gives me a really nice balance, I find.
Yeah, I like how you said that you'll identify what's important to you in your improvement season because so many athletes get caught up in trying to maintain the prep version of themselves in improvement season. And I don't think that allows enough time for mental, physical, and emotional recovery or growth. And
Mm-hmm.
our self-image in this sport is gonna be ever evolving because you're gonna see your body go
Yes.
through all of
So
those
many
phases.
phases. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you consistently maintain a positive self-image, even in the times where maybe that's challenged or maybe you're kind of pushing your threshold in an
Mhm.
improvement season?
Um, It's hard. That's the first thing I want to say. It's definitely hard. I don't mean to be, anyone that, doesn't have those issues at all. But ways that I try to keep, my mind positive is, focusing on goals that I have. So it might not be, a prep related goal. It might be that, I want to spend more time with my family. I want to, see more patients. I want to invest more in work. I think then I really like working towards goals, which is why prep works, very well for me. But I think in improvement season, I just kind of switch those goals a little bit. Aesthetically, I try to wear the same clothes, that I wear during prep. I try not to kind of switch my wardrobe. I fill them out a lot more, but I think that that's also key. I try not to weigh myself quite as often either, just because, that can sometimes be, mentally tough to deal with, right? So, I just focus on kind of how I feel because, during prep when you get down, it's tough to kind of keep up with as many activities as you're used to and as much energy expenditure as you're used to. And so I'm just grateful for those things, throughout improvement season.
Gratitude. Yeah, that's key.
Mhm.
And also being able to see there's a benefit to that and there's other goals that you can focus on and you have certain standards for yourself. I personally even find that sometimes self-image gets challenged in prep. You start getting like that super, super lean look and your take some extra food and water to start filling out, and
Yes.
you're like, I
Yes.
look flat in these jeans. Like there's not
Yes.
much going on. So it'll
Yes.
challenge you in both, right? So it's good to
Hmm.
practice how we
Yeah.
respond to that.
Yes, I definitely miss my curves during prep. So that's what I'm saying. I just kind of identify what I love about improvement season. I feel like my body or my body image kind of goes in little waves, like you're saying. I might be a little different in that I kind of really like my body when I'm kind of just coming down during prep, so maybe 4 to 6 weeks in. And then as we get closer to stage, then you start to feel a little bit, I always like put on long sleeves before I go into like a convenience store or something like that because you just end up being so vascular, right? And it's just a little, it's a little shocking sometimes.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's certain places where I was like, my arm looks to the normal person very manly right now. To
Right? I'm
the
like, if I'm
person.
making any sort of stop, I'm like, oh.
And people will do that too online. Like you've seen this with hater
Oh
comments.
yeah.
Like if they're not in the industry, there's a misunderstanding, I think, of what we're trying to achieve. And you've
Mhm.
shared some of those comments from haters. And so some of what you share are the comments from the haters. And even though there's more people who support, it can be easy to focus on the hate. So how do you personally manage hater comments, and maybe what would be your advice to others who are having a hard time dealing with it?
Um, I think if we're just talking about mainly online, I think that it's hard to take someone's opinion when they haven't um, experienced what they're talking about. Um, so it kind of just rolls off my back in that way. Um, because yeah, it's tough to put yourself in someone else's shoes when you haven't experienced it. Um, it hasn't been, I guess, just ignoring it and kind of also just rising above, I think, because it is a very specific, very different sport that we compete in and love. Um, but I know we love it, right? And so it's yeah, yeah.
Now, you specified online. Do you get it in person too?
I would say that it's not so much from people in the community, and I wouldn't call it as much of haters, but it's tough for, coworkers and people that aren't like your immediate circle to understand. And so sometimes, little things can sting a little bit more, I guess. Why are you eating the same thing every day? I could never do that. It just kind of goes on and on. So sometimes, you're uh, just, you're at work and you're just, I just want to eat my meal in peace.
Yeah, seriously.
But there's always the comments. So just kind of just rising above and just kind of understanding where they're coming from. It is a very extreme sport, but we love it.
That's so true. How does your family and your husband support you or not support you?
My husband is very, very supportive. He always, goes to the gym with me if I'm not really feeling it, or, I'm not really feeling that last bit of cardio. And he's always, always there to kind of support and even go with me. I love when he does that. It's great. Usually closer to the end of, I'm like, oh, can you come with me? But he's always been very, very supportive. He's always coming to all of my shows. I don't think he's missed. I think he's made maybe one or two, maybe one or two. Um,
And that
but
was
no,
weather
he's
related,
been,
I think, right?
yes, that was related. His whole flight got turned around. He was not the happiest. Um, but yeah, he's always been amazing. My family came out to Hawaii, and that was great to have them there for my pro debut because they hadn't seen me compete for 3 to 4 years. So it was super special for me.
Wow, that's super
Yeah.
cool. And you did so well at your pro debut.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Placing fourth, that was huge and among some heavy hitters. So what was that like for you to go and make your pro debut?
It was an amazing experience, amazing experience. Obviously, the weather was amazing. Hawaii was incredible to be in November, especially when it's cold. But yeah, no, it was an incredible, incredible experience. My family being there really added to it. It was my first show with Shane. We did extremely well together. I'm so excited for this year. Corey, actually, my trainer, was able to make it out with his wife, Justine.
Wow.
And it was just fantastic to have that little circle around and Lauren, Kaylia cheering me on from home and everything. It was incredible. It was incredible. And yeah, like you said, with some heavy hitters, I met Ashley Kay backstage. That was incredible. That was incredible because I've been watching her since 2018. But yeah, no, it was a great experience.
When I saw that photo of you guys, I was like, it's kind of ironic that the eye doctor is meeting someone who literally has had consistent eye surgeries and faced these challenges that have kept her from competing. So I felt like that was kind of a cool, at least I would feel like that'd be a cool moment, even aside from the bodybuilding thing.
Yes, yes. And I tried not to get into it. It's actually the one thing we didn't talk about.
That's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, I
Right.
can see that though, because it's like that's your profession. And I just
Hmm.
imagine when I saw that, I was like, wait. And then I was like, oh no, it's not that kind of post. So I
Yeah.
just thought that was super cool. And obviously, like having support from people is really, I mean, it's hard to even put it into words when you have it. It feels so amazing.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Lauren and Kaylia, so let's talk about them because you guys are going to be starting a podcast soon, I've been told. So,
Yes, yes. We haven't officially announced it yet, but we're working on it. We really want it to be very, very relatable and just kind of share our experiences throughout prep. Because currently, the three of us have three different coaches and kind of three different approaches. And so we often get together and kind of chat about bikini and prep and how things are going. And so we thought, it would be really helpful to kind of share it. So we're super excited. We're going to call it Bikini Besties. And
aw,
I'm hoping that a lot of you tune in.
that's awesome. Yeah, let me know when that goes live. I'd love to tune
Yeah,
in myself. I think that's
absolutely.
gonna be so cool. We just had Lauren on, and so now people have already had a
Yeah.
taste for at least two of
Yes.
you.
Yes, she's
Which is
amazing.
cool. Yeah, and I just looked at Kaylia's page and it looks like she's gunning for her pro card, or it appears to be
Yes.
that way this year.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. We keep telling her it's when we're getting it this year. So we're super excited for her.
That's
Yes.
awesome. So bodybuilding has clearly made a positive impact on your life, but what even brought you to it?
Um, that's kind of funny. I started working out in the gym with my dad around 2016, I believe. And I think there was actually someone at the gym that mentioned it to me, then thought that I would be good at it, thought I would get into it. And then you kind of just, make a little community at the gym. And then it was like a friend of a friend. And then all of a sudden, there I was in my first prep in 2018. But no, it was incredible. One of my best friends, I actually met through that very first prep, and I'm in her wedding this year. So,
Oh,
you
that's
make really good connections. Yeah.
Yeah, you really do. That's probably one of the biggest blessings of competing. But you've moved a lot also, as we were talking about this before we hit record. But sometimes
Mhm.
those communities kind of change or you have to readjust. So, how did you manage competing on top of residency and becoming a doctor and then establishing your career?
Yeah. I think in every city, I just really tried to, because in that internship year, it was four different sites or four different cities, I guess, and four different places. So I went from Portland to Edmonton to Utah to Vancouver, Canada.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so it was a fun year. Just making sure that I was living closer to a gym. Actually, in Utah, I didn't have a car for 3 months,
Oh
and so
my
I was
goodness.
actually walking to work, walking to the gym, and then walking home.
In
So I
Utah?
got all my steps.
That's
Yes, it was not
crazy.
as cold as Canada, so I wasn't even
Okay.
scared.
We're fine.
Right? I was fine.
That's amazing.
But no, just prioritizing, making sure that, it wasn't impacting school or impacting, how I was showing up during my internship year with my attendings. So I think, yeah, just making sure that, like I said, I was getting in my steps, I was being active, I was always during my lunch hour, I'd always eat within the first like 10-15 minutes and then go for a little walk for the remaining 45. And so just making it work, just making it work.
That's really the key. Like, just gotta, I find no matter what, if you talk to someone who's been managing a lot, it's like you just find a way to make it work. But now you're more
Hmm.
settled, yet you are still very scheduled and schedule oriented. So, can you
Yes.
walk us through a day in your life?
Yeah, no, for sure. So right now, I just started prep, so we have no show date kind of picked out, but I just wanted to get started earlier in the year. And so right now, I am getting up, doing my cardio first thing in the morning, not because I've got to do it fasted, but just because I really like to switch up my or have my cardio at a different session or a different time than my training, just so that I can give it my all. And it kind of goes back to that intentional training. So I wake up, do my cardio, go to work. I finish work actually pretty early on. It's not the typical 9 to 5. I finish at about 3:30. And so it gives me enough time to kind of go to the gym and then still get home for dinner time.
That's great. And establishing a routine, I think, is so important for that success versus like hoping it works
Yes.
out. So, how did you actually find what would work for you and maintain that routine?
I think you figure out what works for you when you figure out what doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of just kind of testing things. I would say, I just kind of wrote up a plan and thought this is how this is going to work. It was a lot of, oh my God, I'm going to be late for work. I got to get up 15 minutes earlier, and then kind of finding that right time so
Yes.
that I could, because little things add up. When you're making your first meal and your oatmeal spills over, that's like 10 minutes of cleanup.
Yes.
It goes on and on. And so just making sure, that I learned from my mistakes the day prior and just constantly improving it. It's kind of made it a little bit easier. And learning things about yourself too, So, as my cardio goes up, usually then I would stick with my morning cardio, but maybe even add in some cardio when I get off from the gym. When I finish my training, then I would add in a little bit more cardio. And sometimes I like even driving home to do that because I can do cardio with Zach when he's training, so that we're kind of still spending time together in our own way.
Definitely. That's such a good way of doing it because you get to multitask. It may not be a
In a
date night
way.
out, but it's like
Yeah.
at least you're
Right? It
within each
counts.
other's.
Half,
Yeah,
maybe.
totally. And I like how you said you've got to test it. I think we can be
Hmm.
too hard on ourselves. Like, I should
Yep.
have this figured out. I should have had my routine down. But sometimes you really do just have to test and tweak and be willing to make some mistakes and be
Hmm.
running a little bit more rushed because you didn't have enough
Yes.
time. And that doesn't make you a bad athlete. It doesn't make you any less of a competitor. You're learning and then you establish what works. And I think that can make all the difference is just having compassion for yourself.
Yes, yes, and absolutely checking in with yourself mentally. I didn't especially like training, after 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock when it gets dark outside. For some reason, my body is just not as into it. I don't know what it is, but for me, it's the daylight.
Yeah.
And so, just checking in, after a training session at 7 o'clock, thinking, oh my gosh, why was that so difficult? This isn't like my time of day. And just making sure that your schedule is optimized and personalized for you.
Absolutely. Now, I want to talk about some other endeavors that you've been on and explored through your fitness journey and your fitness
Mhm.
career because something we haven't discussed much on this podcast is making a brand or developing your brand or creating opportunities for yourself. And I went on your website, you've been able to create very clear packages for brand partnerships, rate cards to promote yourself and promote their stuff more so, I should say, but promoting your service to help them do that and offer yourself as a representative or content creator. And I think a lot of people expect opportunities to come to them or expect to just like kind of figure it out as they go, or maybe they take opportunities that just the first thing they get offered because they don't know what to do or how to say or how to identify if it's a good opportunity or maybe not one that represents them well. So, can you talk to us more about why you do this and how it's actually supported you outside of your career as an eye doctor and maybe how it's supported you within your career of competing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that you're right. I think that, and I definitely myself originally thought, I'll get my pro card and then all these sponsorships will just rain down upon me. But no, it doesn't really work like that. You really have to be active, and also just making sure that you are affiliate or associating yourself with brands that you share common goals or common visions, I think has been really key. um, Sometimes it's actually kind of cool when I get to mix the two a little bit. And, I do some meal prep companies. And Zach really benefits. He loves that. He loves when it's a meal prep company. He's like, I will try everything and anything. But I've also done a ton of content for Infinity Scrubs. And so they usually will send me products and things like that that I actually use for work. And so it kind of comes full circle. And I just love promoting, overall health and balance throughout, and making sure that you are feeling your best, right? So I really like working with them.
I like how you said you got to pick brands that you really align with because
Yeah.
early on in my journey as a fitness influencer, I swallow that word because I don't know that I would, qualify as that. But if we're gonna use those types of
Oh,
terms,
goodness.
like I took whatever I could get in some ways. I still made sure I liked the product always. I would never promote something I didn't try, but I spent more time, I think, taking whatever I could get, like, oh, an ambassadorship, sure. And I didn't see my own value or worth. But now I'm like, what? I don't, some things I'm just like, I won't even consider that. Because I know what I bring to the table as a content creator, like this
Yes.
podcast, my Instagram, like, I'm not just gonna post anything I'll take free offers if it's something I actually like. Yeah, cool. I love what you're doing and it's
Yeah.
great. But
Yeah.
most of the times I'm like, no, 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 I don't do that anymore. Like it's just not for me, and I'm not afraid to walk away from those things. And
Mm-hmm.
you've been able to find that for yourself. Like,
Yeah. No,
it,
I agree with you. Having that balance is really key. And it goes back to how you feel, right? Because you feel good kind of promoting that content. You feel good repping that brand. So I totally agree with you on that.
right. And then you also have to know like what your worth is, and not worth as in like you as a person, more like worth as in like the cost of the work you're going to put into promotion. So, how did you
Yeah.
establish what you wanted to offer brands and how did you establish your rates for that?
I did a ton of research for sure, a ton of research. And then I took a little bit of a dabble in UGC content. It wasn't completely for me, but it was just one of the kind of roads that I went down in terms of looking into what would work for me. Just kind of that trial and error. Cody, my videographer, I think his handle is Create with Cody. Um, he has been super instrumental in just guiding me and being there and showing up. And we work really, really well together in creating some of those videos that you see. He's been awesome. My favorite video I think is after I won my pro card. I love to bake, and so he came over and we baked some cupcakes together, and it was super messy, but it was a lot of fun. And so there's a video on my YouTube on that, but it's a lot of fun and just kind of getting the right people around you to support your dreams and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, like making it what you want it to be versus what others maybe expect it to be.
Yes, exactly. Getting your message across and what's important to you.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a really good point as well. So what would you want like your influence to be as an IFBB bikini pro? Like what do you hope to represent and showcase?
It's a tough one. Um, I am, I think I really emphasize authenticity is huge for me. Just showing up as you, making sure you know that the people around you are authentic and are supportive. I think for me, with a career in health as well, um, the balance is huge because I think it's been the biggest thing that's helped with my longevity in the career, and and just taking inventory of your physical, your mental, and your emotional health. Those three things are super, super important. Um, and sometimes, you might have to pull back on one in order to give to the other. And so, checking in with yourself is huge, I think. So that's been really big for me. So I try really hard. I think one big thing that a lot of my followers usually message me about is showing my physique during improvement season. And I try to do that just as much as I do during prep. I had a very close friend go through an eating disorder that I was kind of a front row seat for. And so when I get a lot leaner, I try to not put it on a pedestal in a way, because I love my body across the board, right? So I try to promote it that way, and then it leads to a little bit more positive body image, I think, for me at least.
No doubt about that. Like if you put your body in any season on a pedestal, like for how it looks, then absolutely it'll create like some sort of bias towards it. So I love how you communicated that, how it's helped you to be more mindful and you embrace your body in all the seasons. And I think the key to that is also because you love the process of this sport, that regardless of how your body is looking, it's like, well, you're still doing the thing that needs to be done.
Exactly. You're still aligned with your goals and yourself. That's the main thing, because everyone will have an opinion, right? We were just talking about everyone will have an opinion.
Right. So true. And you
Mhm.
mentioned the word balance, and this brings me to a video I watched of you and your husband. You had celebrated 1 year anniversary married, and you
Oh
spoke
yeah.
about what kind of parents you guys think you'll be. So I'm curious how you're preparing yourself to have children with consideration for your goals as an athlete.
Yeah, so it's another big reason why I wanted to start prep earlier this year is because I'm hoping that within the next, 3 to 5 years or so, probably closer to three, Zach and I will start trying for a family. And so it'll be kind of my last couple of years competing before doing so, because obviously with the stress that prep puts on your body, you definitely want to kind of dial it back and be in a good homeostasis. So that's really changed my decisions in terms of when I'm going to compete, which shows. But I'm super excited to start my first pro season, and Zach is really supportive of it too. So it's really nice when your goals kind of align with your partner as well. It takes down a ton of stress, because I've been in both both situations.
So how would you compare it?
Um, when you're with a partner that doesn't support your goals, it just makes everything a little bit, not a little bit, a lot harder, a lot harder, because it just adds another complexity, I guess, another complexity, right? So to kind of just be aligned and always, and it's something that evolves, right? So I'm not saying, I start prep and we agree and then, we don't talk about it at all. It's more checking in with your partner, making sure that there isn't anything, that you could do better, or something that they could do better. That's my favorite. Something they can do better.
Yeah. That's for sure. I think that's such a great point. And aligning your visions, like you've aligned your visions for your family together with respect to both his desires and your desires. So, within competing, if it's the next like 2 to 3 years of competing, what are you wanting to accomplish as an athlete?
I am really hoping to qualify for the Olympia as every
Yes.
other bikini pro.
I love to
So
hear it
I,
though.
right? Yes, no, absolutely, absolutely. So just always giving it my all and just doing my best, right? Because I think that that's the main key because you can't control the placings, you can't control who shows up, you can't control any of that. But you can control just bringing your best, and I think that that makes it the easiest to kind of be happy with the package that you brought.
Definitely. Because you know that you gave it everything you got and there was nothing left. And even if it's not what the judges pick that day, you can be satisfied with the work you put in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I always feel like I'm going to win stepping on the stage. So that's the main thing.
So true. And every day is like an opportunity to win in a sense because you're ticking off those boxes and you have
Mhm.
specific things you've got to do to make it a day that moves the needle forward, really.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I want to hear about if you have any other life goals for yourself and for your family or things on the radar. We talked about the podcast. We talked about starting a family in the future, hitting the Olympia stage. Are there any things
Yes.
that really stand out to you?
Um, the only other thing that I would love to start again is I used to have a piano studio in Edmonton when I first started competing. I used to teach. And so I love music. And so that's one thing that I'm hoping for when Zach and I move into a house to have kind of a little piano space because I love playing.
That's great. When you move into the house, are you guys moving soon?
No, I'm just hoping that I'm hoping that we're staying in Idaho, but I'm hoping that we either get a house here or perhaps move to another state. I'm not sure, but
Wow.
yeah, I'm not sure. We haven't completely decided, but just moving into more space because a piano cannot fit in our current 2 bedroom.
Yeah, definitely. That's so cool. I actually saw one of your reels. You were like, what version of me did we meet in? And your last one was music. And I was like, music? When? And I probably didn't investigate deep enough into that, but that's so awesome that you taught piano. Is that something you've done since you were little?
Yeah, so I started playing at about age 4. And so no, I don't post a ton about it. I don't post myself playing or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I might now that you're all interested, I'm like, oh, maybe I should.
Absolutely. That would be so cool.
Right.
Do you
But no,
you
it's
don't have
been
a
a huge
piano
part of
though?
me. I have a keyboard. I have a
Okay.
keyboard. I have a weighted keyboard, so it kind of feels like a piano, but it's smaller because of our space. But no, I really love it. It's something that I grew up with my 2 siblings. We all played, and so no, it's a big part of my life. Big part of my life. It's just not so big right now, but hopefully in the future. It's a future goal.
That's a cool goal. I love that you want to
Mhm.
bring that back into your life. You seem so dynamic in your interests.
Yeah, they're very different. They're very different, and it definitely has helped me meet different people throughout life, and different walks of life and that sort of thing. So, no, it's pretty cool.
That is cool. Yeah, I think it's really amazing that you can pursue all of those things versus putting yourself into a box. You're able to like
Mhm.
say, no, there's so many different aspects to who I am. And that's part of why I love this podcast. I get to learn about different aspects to the athlete that maybe we don't get to see otherwise.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love your podcast. It was one of the first podcasts I started listening to when I first got into competing.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Well, that's awesome.
absolutely.
Well, that's so cool to hear.
So,
Well, the
yes,
year
so
you
it's
started competing.
special.
Yeah, this is special because literally your year you competed first was the year I started this podcast.
Yes, I saw
It's been
that. I
a long
saw that. And I was
time.
like, I think it might have been 2019 when I first started listening, but yeah, no, it was very, very early on. So I
Cool.
love it. I love it. You've always done such a great job. Such a great
Thank
job.
you. Thank you. That means a lot to me. I love stories like that because every time I get to speak with an athlete who's like, I've been listening for so long, I'm
Yeah.
like, That's crazy for me. It's like a full circle moment.
Yes, yes, yes.
So then I have to ask you for your best advice. So I want to get your best
Mhm.
advice for someone who has never competed before but would like to, and then your best advice for someone who's on their road to pro.
Okay, so if you've never competed before, my advice would be to find yourself a coach. Make sure you find yourself a coach. That's number one. But then also a coach that aligns with your values and goals, right? And so, with my first coach, I interviewed two other coaches before I chose a coach. And so just not, seeing them at face value on Instagram or whatever the social media site might be, but sitting down talking with them and really being honest and communicative, because it's really key, like we said, throughout prep. So that would be my advice for a first time competitor. And then for someone on their road to pro, just showing up as your best, just showing up as your best. I recently had a conversation with an amateur who's, just starting prep and a little bit nervous about, how she's currently looking. And it's exactly what I told her in terms of just showing up as your best, because you'll always look back on past shows and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe, I stepped on stage. I can't believe I did that move, or that, wore that bikini or did my makeup like that. But it's just about, showing up as your best that day, because you will improve. One big one for me was, I thought when I won my pro card, that was my most amazing physique. It's my best, my absolute, top physique. And then, 6 months later, I put a video on my Instagram of my, posing routine from when I won my pro card to just getting ready for my pro debut. And it's an astronomical difference. So I even highlighted that to her, is that, I looked back on that and I thought that was my best. So just always, always bringing your best.
Such great advice. You're
Mm-hmm.
so spot on with that. Your best continues to get better with you. And sometimes it's that up and down journey too, like those times where
Yes.
I should not have stepped on stage, or I
Yes,
wish they would
exactly. We all
delete
have
that.
one of those. We all
Yeah.
have one of those. And it saves you from the comparison, right? And the thief of joy, right? And just focusing on you, just focusing on you, because we all get sidetracked a little bit, but just focusing on your journey, right?
Yeah, such a good. I feel like that reminder it will never get old, because in
Never.
this sport where you're being compared, to make sure you're not being the one who's doing the comparing in a negative way is really
Hmm.
important.
Hmm. Hmm. Agreed, agreed.
So how can people follow your journey, connect with you, watch this prep? I mean, I know you've got tons of
Yes.
socials, so feel free to mention them here, and even reach out to work with you.
Oh, absolutely. So my email is stephashley.fitness@gmail.com. And then all of my social handles are at steph.ashley with two L's. And so I'm going to try to post a lot more on YouTube. I just started my YouTube channel last year. And so I'm going to vlog my prep this year. And so we're hoping to do a video every 2 weeks on how things are going. So I'm hoping to share, my food, what I'm eating, what training I'm doing, what cardio I'm doing, and also just mentally checking in and just showing, kind of how I'm feeling that week, how things are progressing. So hopefully you follow along. I'm excited, and it'll be a great year.
Definitely. Well, we'll put all of that in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on
Yeah.
celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, it'll be at the top of that page. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the category section and you'll be able to find all of those links there. But not just the links. Keep in mind, we also do a full episode summary. We do a bulleted list of all the topics we covered, and there will be episode timestamps so you can go back and listen to your favorite part and also share it with your teammates, your friends, your family. That means so much, not just to us, but
Yes.
also to others. I think when you can tell them, why I thought about you when I heard this, and that's super cool. So definitely tag us as you listen, and I hope you enjoyed listening. Just a reminder, a lot of these are on YouTube now. We're doing video podcasts every week pretty much
Yes.
for almost like a year now, which has been so
Yes, I love
cool.
the video because you
Thank
get to see
you.
the facial expressions and everything, right? It gives you it's a different vibe.
I was so against it too for a while. Like my
Yeah.
assistant Laura was like, "You got to start doing it." And I was like, but podcasts are for listening." And then people were
Yeah.
like, "Video," and I was like, ah. And now I have a whole studio at my house that I'm gonna start. I'm like, well, I went from I'll never do videos to like now I'm gonna do this
Yes.
immersive
I
experience.
love the videos. I love the videos.
That's great feedback. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys subscribe on YouTube at celestial_fit. That way you don't miss those things, and let us know what you think about the videos. We've got a lot more in store for this year, but I appreciate you all tuning in. And Steph, thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you for having me, Celeste.
Of course. Hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.